Hello and welcome to India Tonight. I'm Karan Thapar. It was 5:50 this morning that the crisis in Pakistan was diffused by the government's decision to reinstate the Chief Justice. By that one stroke, the politics of the country could also have changed dramatically. So tonight, as Pakistan breathes a sigh of relief, we examine the new political situation. With me from Lahore, the editor-in-chief of the well-known Daily Times, Najm Sethi, and former professor of political science from Punjab in Columbia University's Hassan Askari Rizvi, and joining us from Islamabad, the Hindu correspondent Nirupama Subramaniam. Najm Sethi, let me start with a blunt question. How big a defeat is this for Asif Ali Zardari?
It's a significant fallback. There is no doubt about that. He did not want it to happen in this manner. And he wanted to take his time over this deal, which was stitched by the Americans and the army in the last 10 days. But I think yesterday, in view of the long march and Nawaz Sharif's obstreperousness, the army chief intervened to push things up the agenda.
Nirupama, you're in Islamabad, and I gather that spokesmen on behalf of President Zardari are putting it out today that in fact he does not see this as a setback, that he has always wanted to strengthen the institutions of the country. Are people accepting that explanation, or is that mere face saving?
No, I don't think anybody is really praising Zardari for this particular decision. I think more people are crediting the Prime Minister, and also Nawaz Sharif is the sure winner of this whole episode. He has come out completely covered in glory, and he has taken all the credit really, and to a lesser extent Prime Minister Yusuf Raza Gilani, who is seen as having finally played his role and come out, and he has done something to diffuse the crisis.
Professor Rizvi, so far the Chief Justice and the judges have been restored, but what about the decisions taken by the Dogar court after the 3rd of November, including of course the famous or infamous NRO? Do you expect them to be rescinded, or could there be an agreement not to disturb them?
Well, there can be arrangement for accommodating these and couple of other decisions, because the Parliament is competent to provide legal cover to any action which have been taken by either by Musharraf government or subsequently. So there is an opportunity, if the major political parties join together to create a kind of a shared approach to overcome the crises and problems, I think the possibility exists.
Najm Sethi, you always used to point out that at the core of Asif Ali Zardari's hesitation in bringing the Chief Justice back was his concern that the Chief Justice could rescind the NRO. What do you think will be the fate of the NRO now? And do you think it's possible that political parties might actually give it some sanction in Parliament to make it permanent and therefore beyond the jurisdiction of the court?
Karan, there is one issue that has not yet been settled. Whether or not the Chief Justice has been restored to his position as a Chief Justice before November 3rd, or whether he is going to be reappointed on the 21st of this month. On that will hinge the fate of the PCO, under which all the acts of post-November were legitimized. Now, I think, you see, the PCO was carried out by General Musharraf as Army Chief. The emergency was imposed by him as President. Now, I think General Kiani would like to see that indemnified, so that the Army Chief is off the hook. So, I think that must have been an understanding between the Army and the Chief Justice, which will then, of course, also protect Mr. Zardari, the Army, and then pave the way for possibly something like that to get Mr. Nawaz Sharif off the hook in terms of the disqualification that lies against him.
I see.
So I think we have to wait and see how this pans out in the next 10 days or so.
Meanwhile, Nirupama Subramaniam, the Prime Minister has said that the government will appeal against the Supreme Court judgment debarring the Sharif brothers from contesting elections. But what's the decision about revoking or not revoking governor's rule in Punjab? Do we have any confirmation that this will happen?
I think it will happen. It seems to be, there has been no explicit mention of it in the Prime Minister's address to the nation. But I think it is a natural corollary of what has happened today, that the PML, that the governor's rule in Punjab will be revoked and the PML will be again given a chance to form the government. So I think, although it has not been mentioned, it is likely to happen, and this must have been part of the understanding at which both parties were working over the last few days in order to avoid this confrontation on the streets.
In which case, very quickly, Nirupama, why has nothing been said about it? Because presumably this is the second critical aspect of what Nawaz Sharif was protesting about.
I think, it's quite puzzling that it was not stated very explicitly, and many people are asking questions about it. But also, at this moment, the sentiment here is so strong that most people think that it will be difficult for the government not to revoke governor's rule, and many people see it as something that will fall in line, that will happen once a disqualification, once there's a review of the disqualification petition.
Professor Rizvi, earlier on, Asif Ali Zardari had hopes of forming a Punjab government with the PMLQ, although several senior members of that party did shoot them down. Are those hopes now buried under the debris of what's happened, or might he look to resurrect them as a sort of consolation prize, since he's had to give in and restore the Chief Justice, which is something he didn't want to do?
Well, the available evidence suggests that the PPP will not be able to muster enough support to establish its own government in the Punjab province, and especially after what has happened last night, there are very little chances that PML and members or some other member would go with the PPP. The governor rule has not been lifted because Shehbaz Sharif cannot become chief minister until the review is filed and the Supreme Court gives a stay order. Then I think this would be withdrawn, and it is expected that N-League, Nawaz League, Muslim League may form the government.
Beyond what's happening in Punjab, Najum Sethi, there's also the question of the powers the President has under the 17th Constitutional Amendment, powers to dismiss governments and dissolve the Parliament. When Prime Minister Gilani this morning extended an invitation to the Sharifs to work together under the Charter of Democracy, was that in fact code for saying that he'd be prepared to amend the Constitution and remove these powers from the President?
I think there is an understanding behind the scenes that they will have to work according to the Charter of Democracy. The Charter of Democracy envisages, amongst other things, both an independent judiciary, which is vetted by Parliament and which has parliamentary sanction, which means that the current judiciary, including the one in which the new Chief Justice or the old Chief Justice will be sitting, will be open to examination or re-examination. It also involves doing away with the 17th Amendment and restoring the powers of the Prime Minister and so on. So I think you will see some movement on that. Mr. Sharif has talked about the Charter of Democracy, and the government is also talking about the Charter of Democracy. So I think those are the three magic words, Charter of Democracy, under the rubric of which we will now try and find solutions in Parliament.
One very quick question to you, Najum Sethi. Given that both the main parties are now once again devoting themselves